Yay. Yay.
Now, okay, looks like you're active. I will go check on my side.
Thank you. All right, we'll go here. I'm gonna go to my YouTube. Hi, yay! I am so tickled to see you guys. And I'm trying to get rid of the other stream. So hold on one second.
Stream is live. Everything looks fine.
Yay.
They just have to find you.
Yep. And I'm getting rid of the other stream so they don't go to that. So hopefully it was ended anyway and they won't go to it. All right.
Yeah, you're live right there. So, and people are showing up. So.
Yep, they're showing up.
Good.
Thank you so much. This is so frustrating. I was talking and I moved my hands around a lot when I talk, and my hand came right down just on the mouse. Why that should disappear the chat, I have no idea. But we finally went out, started it all again. I'm so sorry. I hope that Barbara Smith can find us again. You know, I have to keep going. I have to be a good sport. But it gets very frustrating when something so tiny blows the show up. And I'm trying very hard not to lose it. So, because, you know, I just want to come and have fun with y'all. And it seems like almost every week something happens. So, yeah, the chat was gone. And I have to tell you, I would hate to make these shows without y'all there. It just doesn't feel right, because to me it feels like we're really meeting and we're doing this, and I love reading your chat. Yes, Miss Jo, you're so smart. I think this actually does have a couple buttons on top. So who knows what I hit, but I couldn't get back chat. And without chat, I'd rather not do this, because I come here to visit with y'all. So I know what I've done and what I'm going to say. It's y'all I come here to see. So I'm excited. So I have this necklace on. I'm not sure if it's something I'm going to wear often, but it is dramatic. So there it is. But anyway, oh, what a week. Okay. So we dedicated the show once again to the Ukraine, and I mentioned my flag on the front porch that I made for the Ukraine the day it happened, that they were invaded by Russia. My flag is looking terrible. It's so faded. It's getting so threadbare. So I would like that war to be solved for those wonderful people, and then I can take that thing down. So we're going to cross fingers. I've got a few decorations up, and let me show you, I've got this hanging back up because I put the binding on it today. So I'll show you that a little later. I went with my best guess and Monkey Mary's best guess. I went with the light blue binding, because the light blue from all of the sashing squares really asked for it. It just felt right, and I think it's going to look fabulous. I've been working this week on the fall landscape. I've got a couple other things I've been working on. Okay, let me bring, I don't know why I put this agenda up over there, but because I do need it. But I told you I went to a cardiologist appointment. It was all good. You know, it's funny, you start those because I had to have surgery, and so they want to get a clearance from a cardiologist. And then once you get on their list, you stay on their list. But this time there was a resident, and she was delightful. I had the best time. And I love seeing women in non-traditional medical roles, because you know what? It is wonderful to have another woman to talk to who understands that women present differently in their cardiology symptoms. So it was wonderful. Oh, the backing. Yes, I'm going to show you that backing. You know what? There are times when you really feel your age. When you get up in the morning and it takes you a while to straighten up. I mean straighten up just to walk straight. Then when you get off the couch and there's times you're getting old. Well, this is one of them. In fact, Mary, this is such a good conversation. Let's go with it. Okay. So, here is our summer class quilt, which was Snail's Trail al fresco. And so here is the blue binding. I used the same blue fabric that's in all of the sashing squares. And I think it's going to look great. Oh, yay, Debbie. I'm so tickled for you. Yeah, woman cardio doctor is fantastic. So, but then I was noticing when I was sewing my binding, and see now it's got clips on it so I can sit down and stitch the back of the binding. But I was noticing the backing, and I said, wait a minute. Why is that so faded? And let me see if I can show you what the backing is supposed to look like. Hold on. Oh, boy, it's not... It is a nice dark charcoal black. But when you put it on upside down, you lose... I don't know if you're going to be able to see it good, but it's a nice charcoal black. Now, okay, everybody can understand when once in a while you put your backing on the frame upside down, because it's one of those crazy things where you have to stop and think, okay, I need the pretty side to face down to the floor, because then the batting and the top get laid on top of it and you quilt it. I took off the backing twice because I had it wrong. The third time, I still did the same thing. I don't know what I was thinking. So now it's all quilted. I'm not going to do it over. So there we are. And I have been quilting 40 years. And come on, this is such a rookie mistake. So, oh well. But you know what? Honestly, I don't really care about the backing. I'm not a person. There are some people, and I love looking at them. There are some people who put a lot of thought into their backings. And they will piece the backing or buy really nice backing. Not me. I buy whatever's cheap and on sale, because to me, the front is the show. And the backing is just something to get it there. But I do like the blue on the edge. I think that is pretty. And you can see it brings the blue from the middle. So sometimes you just have to go with it. And sometimes, even though you realize I put the backing on upside down, you then become friends with that. And you just make peace with it and move on. So, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe that. That's why I wrote, the reason they knew about it is because I wrote about it on my group's IO, our group's IO. and we have a chat group. So if you would like to join our chat group, drop me an email at ourtimeto@gmail.com, and I will send you out an invitation. We've got like 109 people on our chat group, so that's a lot of fun. Now I know why I'm not going to be wearing this necklace often. It moves around a lot. So, okay, and this is the polymer clay. I was making monarch butterfly wings, and I had this extra clay, and I said, it's so pretty, what can I do with it? So there we go. And I don't wear earrings because I'm allergic. Once I put an earring in my ear, then the next time I put it in, my body goes, whoa, and I can't wear earrings. I've finally given up. It's just part of growing older. So let's see. Okay, so now I had to finally, Mark went to our GP for his regular checkup. I'm going in November. And I finally had to face the fact that she's going to retire at the end of the year. And she deserves to retire. But she's such a wonderful doctor. And she has saved my life a couple of times. And what in the world, how do you say goodbye to someone like that who goes above and beyond? And you know, I'm on the diet and I'm slowly losing this weight. And how do you say goodbye to someone like that who is so important? And it's a little scary to think of a new doctor, you know? So I said, I've been wanting to make her something. Along the way, oh, it is, I know, and your doctor, when you have one that's this wonderful, what in the world? Exactly, Miss Jo. And I've made little things along the way. Christmas ornaments in honor of our former Supreme Court Justice. Now her name has escaped, but the one who wore the wonderful lace collars. I made her some ornaments for that. I've given her doctor ornaments for Christmas. I've given her a plant to thank her. You know, I've made her paper bead necklace, and because she loves one that I often wear when I go in. So I've given her little things like that, but I said, I really want to give her something to just remind her of what a special career she's had and how she's gone above and beyond. So I was trying to think, what do I do? What do I do? And I finally realized I'm going to see her in November. If I'm going to make a quilt, I've got to get going. And I think I just didn't want to face the fact that I've got to say goodbye to her. So she mentioned they have a lake house. So I said, okay, there I go. I'll make a quilt that revolves around a lake house. So I ordered the fabric. It's going to be here probably by Tuesday, and then I'm going to have to start a new quilt. Then I was looking around, but I'm very excited. I've got to design it, and it's going to be around a panel that shows chairs on a lake. I draw, like a painting of chairs on a lake. And so now I've got to design a quilt for it. So I have been, I love to go to Pinterest boards, whatever, and type in lake quilt patterns or designs. So I haven't finished designing it, but I will get that done. Then I said, okay, I've got a retreat coming up in November, and I always take a gift to the women who run the retreat because I know, I used to run the retreat. I know how much work is involved. So I was trying to think of, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I've been thinking and nothing has come to mind. Well, when I was looking for ideas for the quilt pattern, this popped up on one of the Pinterest boards. And have you seen this before? It's hexagons, which I swore I would never do a hexagon. It's hexagons that are then sewn together along the side, and it forms this bowl. Well, I got very excited about that. And see the little patterns for it? So it was a $10 pattern that you're able to download right away. And so I went in and bought it, and I'm going to make it. And it is from it's called the Blossy Basket Pattern. Hi, oh, Carol is here. Hi, and Linda Williams. Oh, Cotton for Me. Hi, a new person, Cotton for Me. That's one. Oh, gosh, it's so good to see all of you. So, and, so the site, let me get my glasses on. Craftapalooza 2025. And this is a Nick or Nikki. And here is her picture. I love these patterns that you can download. So it's Craftapalooza 2025. And it's Blossy, Blossie basket. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And to give my basket more oomph, I think I'm either going to, I've got some buckram, which is a very heavy interfacing, and I think I'm going to do that, or either I will cut some template plastic to put inside, something just to stiffen it a little bit. And you're not much Mrs. or Miss Joe. This is going to bother me about this necklace. So that will bother me. Okay. So anyway, so now I'm going to Myrtle Beach. I take a class, and I usually make something for the woman who runs the Myrtle Beach thing. I like having gifts around that I can easily grab one and give. And for me, they gotta be homemade. That's what I love. But anyway, all right, so I found those. Then this week, you remember last week I made, with Mark's help, we built his yatai, and that is a Japanese street vendor. It's like a little portable restaurant that they set up on the sidewalks in some of the Japanese cities. And so I had built this last week. Then it had a base, and I wanted to make the base look like a sidewalk. Now let me go to the up-close camera, and I'm going to show you how I did this. Okay, let me show you. I had such fun building this, making all the food, everything. All right, can you see now let me see if this would help any. Let me turn on this. There we go. Can you now see what I did to the base of this? What I did is I took painter's tape and sliced it to very thin strips and laid them on a grid on this piece of MDF board that came with it. See the little marks around the edge? So I laid it on the MDF board. Then I took and made a gray paint. I mixed up a gray that I thought was pretty good. Okay? Then what I did, and so I put the tape in a grid pattern and pushed it down really good. Then what I did, once I had the paint made, let me get off. Just got some little, oh, I know what that is. Let me get this off so it looks good. Okay, so then I had the gray paint mixed. Then I mixed into the gray paint I mixed in baking soda. This is something I had learned. And I want you to notice the texture on the concrete. It has a texture. And so what I did is I painted over the little thin little strips of paint. And I painted all over it, about 2 or 3 coats of this thickened paint with the baking soda in it, okay? And then I took my brush and I just kind of did like a dry little stipple thing over the paint because I wanted to give it that texture. Then, after I finished painting it, I peeled up the little thin strips of tape. I peeled up the little strips of tape, and then I just went back over the lines lightly to make sure they were painted pretty good. But now it has the look of a sidewalk. And I didn't put a sealer on because I wanted the sidewalk just to look plain, and I didn't want to lose the texture, the roughness. So now what I've done is I have made the proper little setting for the yatai. So it's just fun. I love, and I glued everything on it so nothing can fall off, get hurt. But it is so much fun. Our Miss Jo, she did a wonderful coffee shop miniature kit. And you can really use your artistic talent on these kits and make them your own. I ordered these cute little miniature bowls, and they came out a little too big, but I still think they're cute, so I glued them on the front. But anyway, I think this is really cute. We love it, love it, love it. And I think this was about a $22 kit, something like that. And what fun that was. All right, and to just show you again, I think I had my food finished last week, but these are my raw chicken pieces, and there's the grill, and it has a little light in it to make it look like it's really heating up the food on it. This was so much fun. All right, so that's that. I just wanted to show you how I finished the base with a special finish to make it exciting. So, and I'm like, see this? That's a problem with this necklace. It's not going to work. It was a great idea. It's just not going to work. But, okay, so I made the base for that. We love it. It now sits in a place of honor on the TV cabinet. I'm still working on putting the little cherries, the applique cherries, on my sparrow quilt border. Really want to get that done. When I go to the retreat in November, I want to take all of the projects that I've finished since last March when I went. So I'm trying to get that done so I can get it on the frame. Who knows if I get the backing on right or upside down this time. Who knows, but we'll give it a shot. So, okay, so now let's see. I already showed you about putting the binding on the Snail's Trail alfresco, and I'm real happy with choosing the light blue that as I look at the quilt, that light blue just speaks to me. And of course, blue's my favorite color. So, last week, I gave y'all a challenge. And I said, let's don't wait. Keep waiting. If you have that special quilt that you have been waiting to do, it's so special, you put it in a special place. Now that's a great idea, Miss Mary. That's a very good idea. Oh, thank you, Miss Joe. And so I talked about the Moon Glow quilt, which the Moon Glow quilt really got me back in to quilt making, because I started learning to quilt back in the late 80s to early 90s, and everything was pastels and sunbonnet Sues. No problem with sunbonnet Sues, it's just not my thing. But I just didn't feel, at the time I still thought I would end up a painter, something like that. And then I saw this quilt. This is when I learned about Jenny Beyer. And I saw this quilt, and it changed my life. And instead of giving up quilting, I said, no, that's what I want to do. So what I did 25 years ago, I asked Santa for the Moon Glow quilt kit and paid $220 for it 25 years ago. So that's, spending money like that was not something I did often back then, but I said, you know what, that quilt just meant everything to me. And it's been sitting. It has just been sitting in a container, waiting for me to get good enough to do it. I'm like, what? So instead of enjoying it the past 25 years, it's been sitting in its plastic bag in a plastic container. So I challenged y'all last week and said, take that special quilt that you either haven't finished or you haven't started and make it. If you have to go buy the pattern, but you know which one you really have wanted, if you have to buy the fabric, whatever you have to do, or if you just get the package out like I did and make that quilt. So let me show you what I've been doing this week. Here is block number 1, and I've made it all by hand. And Jenny Beyer does all of her piecing and quilting by hand. So now, and I'll talk to you more about that by hand. So this is block 1. Then this is most of block 2. It's missing a little piece right there, but this is block 2. And they seem to get a little bit more complicated as you go. So I'm excited. I think this is beautiful. And sometimes for me, yes, I can do the stitches and stuff, but deciding how to iron everything and get it worked out is still a challenge, and one that I will enjoy. Now, I don't want to do this right now, but after we do a few other things, we're going to come back and I'm going to give you a little hand sewing tutorial. I was lucky enough to actually take a hand sewing class from Jenny Beyer, who I think is she's my all-time favorite quilter. And so I'm going to give you the little hints and tips she gave me because they're very good. Now I'm going to show you this pattern. Let me get it down to the close-up camera and I will show you this. All right, here is block number, wait a minute, don't show that, show this. Okay, let me turn that a little. Okay, this is block number 2. Each block has its own trifolder. And so what I did for the first 4 blocks is I've taken and cut out, I'm using the templates, but understand there are 4 different methods that you can put this together with. You can do rotary cutting and sewing, you can do paper piecing, you can do hand stitching. There's all different ways. But what I'm going to do, especially with these blocks. Okay, this was from block 1, block 1. Okay, here's block 2. This is block 2. And block 2. Be careful when you're cutting using the patterns. You might cut the pattern. Block 2. Okay, so this is all I needed for the first block. But for the second one, I'm going to need a bit more. So there's 4 pieces. Now, it shows you, it tells you what size, how many you need. Okay, let me show you right here. Okay, I need this to come down a little. Okay, so it tells you what fabric to find because you have a big stack of fabric. Tells you how many you need to cut of those fabrics. And then there's going to be a surrounding border for each of these blocks. So I've already got that fabric cut out. And then I take and lay a piece of copy paper over the templates. When I get a pattern like this, I do not like cutting these out. I want this to stay as is. You never know if you're going to want to give it or sell it or make another quilt from it. So I just laid copy paper over, drew the patterns, drew all the information about the quilts on them, and drew the sewing line and the cutting line. So I made my templates. Then I cut them out, and the person who wrote this pattern, I'm trying to remember her name. Wonderful. This was designed by Jenny Beyer, but there was another woman who actually, I don't see her name, but there was another woman who wrote all of the instructions, and it is fantastic. Let me see if I can find the design. Here we go. Cindy Edgerton. So it was designed by Jenny Beyer, instructions by Cindy Edgerton, and she did a fabulous, fabulous job. So it can give you instructions on how to cut the fabric out, and with these you're having to do this when you see C and CR. The R is for reverse. And so if you put the two fabric, it tells you exactly what size of piece of fabric, which fabric it is, and whether to lay it facing up or facing down. So I just followed all of that and cut them out, and I just have these 2 pieces left. So I will show you how to sew these on, and once we get the rest of the show done. But these are placed like that. Then you tip it down, and I'll show you exactly where it's supposed to start and end, because that's always very important. And I also wanted to tell you, in this pattern, it has these, I call them a log cabin block, but they're not exactly, but you know what I mean. Now, there is a method for those where you can do strip piecing. So you can take a narrow of black and then this and black, and you can do these by strip piecing methods. I think when it gets to these blocks, I'm going to switch to machine sewing. I'm going to do all of these blocks by hand, and there's a good reason to do these blocks by hand. When something gets rather complicated, like this one, doing it by hand can make it much easier than trying to sew it by machine. So keep that in mind. I think it's going to help me to make sure I get it right, because when you try to start doing on a machine, it can get tricky. So, and then the other thing is this is now finished, and I've starched it, and this is going to have cornerstones and strips of this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful dark purple right here, and then have a cornerstone here and a cornerstone here, and that having all these cornerstones is going to lead to having the black circles that march down the quilt. And I don't know if I'm going to hand sew these on or if I'm going to go ahead and use the machine. But I do want to get it done. I love doing it, as much of it by hand as I can, in honor of Miss Jenny. And she even hand quilts all of her quilts. So that's amazing. Okay, so just thought I would show you this. And I will do a little bit of sewing on this. I want to finish that final block of the other with you, just to give you a few little hand sewing tips. The older I get, the more I like hand sewing, and because I can sit in my comfortable chair instead of sitting, because after so many hours, I don't want to sit in front of a sewing machine. So, okay, so I just thought I'd show you. I got 2 blocks done. Now, 2 blocks sounds like pretty good progress, but I'm trying to remember how many blocks. There's quite, I think, 25 blocks. So I got 2 out of 25. But the other, block 3 and block 4, have already been cut out. They're just sitting by my table, my nighttime sofa, end of my sofa, so when I'm watching some great YouTube shows or whatever, I can take and sew on those. So I'm going to keep going, and I can usually do just almost 1 block a night. But as they get more and more complicated, it'll probably take 2 nights to do 1 block. All right, and I just use a black thread. I like using applique needles just because they're thin, they're a little bit longer, and they're just easy to handle. Alrighty, so I'm excited, and I'll do a demo as soon as we finish a little bit more here. Another thing that I have been doing is, remember I bought the Minky lime green fabric because for Christmas gifts, I think I'm going to talk to my kids and say, let's kind of just, things are going to be so much more expensive and hard to get this Christmas. How about we just minimize gift giving? And I have the time to do homemade, so I want to do that. I understand they both work, my daughters both work full-time, so does my daughter-in-law and my son, so I don't want to stress them out. But I happened to see this, and I don't remember now where I saw it, but I thought, I love the Grinch. He is my favorite Christmas character. And I said, I could make that. I think I can. But, so what I did is, let me go back to my close-up camera. I looked at the fabric I had and said, okay, how many pillows do I want to make? And how much fabric do I have? And so I figured I could make, because I want the front and back to be this wonderful low loft minky. And so I'm going to cut everyone's pieces, 2 pieces per pillow, 15 inches. Then I said, okay, making this is going to be so simple. And you notice I bought a low loft because I don't know about y'all, but if I try to work with any kind of fake fur, it makes me feel so allergic. So I said, okay, 15-inch block. Then I'm going to probably by hand, unless I can figure out how to do it by machine, but I need to embroider the face. So I'm going to need a yellow, a dark yellow floss, and a black floss. And that's all I need for that. So I got a piece of my template plastic, and after a lot of back and forth drawing, I came up with the face that I copied off of this. And it was really hard to try to get the dimensions right. And now I just realized if I use floss, I've got to have enough to do all of this. So I'm going to have to buy myself some more floss in yellow and black. So yeah, hands do work great. And I might be able to do some of these long lines by machine. I'm just going to have to see. And just take it easy. I don't have enough fabric to make mistakes. So, but anyway, so now I made this. Then, some point, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it, but at some point I bought myself a cutting pen. It's like a miniature X-Acto knife. And I need to find that, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this, make it in essence a stencil, so that I can mark these quilts, mark these pillows and put that face on. So this is so I've made the start for this. Mark said, you've got a lot of stuff going on. And yes, I do. But what is new? So anyway, this now has been started. You can see where I did all my figuring to try to see how many how many pillows can I make. Then I'm going to have to order. I usually, when I make a lot of pillows, what I will do is I will order pillows, the cheapest pillows from Walmart, and then I can cut them up and stuff them. Because if you buy pillow forms, you're going to be spending a lot of money. And so my thought is, put an order into Walmart and get those pillows in, and you don't even have to take the stuffing out. You can just take, and like one pillow will probably make 2 linings. And I'll just kind of move it away, pin it so I can stitch a couple times right down the middle of the pillow and leave the stuffing in the pillow wrapper. So, okay, so let me see. I think I've done that. I've shown you about. So now let's talk about our fall landscape. So I left you last week where I had put on all of the color blocking, which just means I put all the fabric in to make the color, where the colors go. The fabric is only 1 star that's going to be this quilt. So, in fact, let me bring my light over here so you can see it better. But here it is. And the fabric, you block in the colors. And then that's one phase. Then the second phase, you're going to do, and you block in the best color that you have in your stash, because you know you can change it and add to it. Okay? So, then the next stage is you do thread painting, thread sketching. Okay? So that's what I'm working on right now. Oh, you know what? That is sweet. I did think about that. I mean, I didn't think about that, but that is very sweet. I'm going to come to, I guess I would have it done in time, but I just wish it was a late. That's the only thing. But you know what? That's a good thought, Mary. Your brain's always working. You embroidered the Grinch one year. Oh, that's wonderful. Here comes that necklace again. I think I'm going to have to put some sticky dots like, was it Mary said? All right, so now let me go to my close-up camera and show you what I've been doing when it comes to, hold on, I'm using the wrong mouse. All right, let's go to the close-up camera and see what I've been working on. All right, I'm gonna bring this down. Okay, first thing I did, let me turn this around. I don't want you looking at it upside down. It's not going to make much sense. There we go. All right, the first thing I did was tackle the tree. And I wanted to give the tree some highlights and some shadows. And looking on this camera, I think I'm going to come in with some more shadows. And, oh, good idea about the getting rid of the fake fur little slubs. So I came in, and this side, the sun is right up. It's coming from this direction. So here's the dark shadow side. Here are the highlights. And I used, so far, 3 or 4 thread colors to try to do this. Then I've put some shadowing on the roots at the base, some highlights to highlight those. And then continued it, but less so, but continued it up the tree. Okay? And that just kind of brings a little bit of dimension. And I haven't yet done enough dark shadowing on the branches, but I will get to that. I'm kind of working mostly from here, going up, but sometimes if I've got a thread loaded on my domestic machine, I will go ahead and try. And let me hold on. Anytime I see a string, I stop and cut it, because when you're doing thread painting, you get lots of little threads. Now down here, this is supposed to be the fall leaves on the ground at the base of the tree. So I've used 3 or 4 colors and some variegated to give the color to the base of the tree. And I didn't go in and make distinct leaves. Just right now I'm just getting the color. Then I can come back and do more rounded. I'm trying to bring the color in now, and then I'll bring more detail as I go. So I've done some thread painting here. I used dark thread. There were 2 tree trunks over here, so I just did a satin stitch with dark thread there. Then I came across here, and I'll show you this. This area right here had a look of something coming down, so I just did a decorative stitch to show that. Like either the grass was up there growing, or I don't know. But I looked in my stitches and said, I have a stitch that will do that effect. Then I've come in with all the different color threads to give it some texture, to give it more excitement. These have really changed because these are trees. In fact, here is our sample that we're using, Reed's original artwork, and he is with Winder Aspire, and I'll write that down in a, oh no, let me see. My little camera froze. I know I can unhook that. Now what did he do? Scenes, controls, stats. Hold on, let me... Let me see. Hold on 1 second. My close-up camera froze. Not a good time. Okay. Mark had shown me something about going to docs and was it sources? Hmm. Okay, let me try this one more time. Oh, poo. That, you just never know when it's going to freeze, and that's frustrating. So, let me unhook it for a bit and see if I can get it to reset. And what did he do so far as docking? Oh, okay. No, don't want to do that. All right, let me try one more time. If not, we'll have to use the other camera. So, let me try this. Well, it's not resetting. So now what I'll do is use the main camera, and which I don't like as good, but hey, we've got to do what we've got to do. All right, so I just wanted to show you these trees have got a lot more depth, although this is looking a little Christmas tree like. So let me do something real quick before I forget. I don't want it to look like it's got garland strung on it. So I'm going to take out some of those. Soon as you see something like this, make a move on it, because what I find, you will forget about it. So I'm going to take and make it less stripes on this, because it looks like Christmas tree garland. But I took out part of this, which will remind me. Otherwise, if you don't have a chance to write down when you see a mistake, put a pin there. And by putting a pin, it will help you remember there is something that needs attention right here on this quilt. So I have tons of safety pins, and that way they won't harm you when you're handling your quilt. But that'll tell me go back and get rid of those stripy looks. I try to do the stitching with a zigzag. Some of them are stylized zigzags, but do you see some of the things that I tried to outline some of these areas to make them mean more and look more exciting? Thank you, Cotton. And then here I've done all kinds of stitching. Remember here when I first did these lighter colors in the tree line, they didn't look right. They looked kind of weird, and I said, don't worry. We are going to add color and shape to them with the thread painting, and then we've got one more phase with this. Now, remember I said I needed to have some definition of the mountains? I've started that. And so if you look closely, you can see the zigzag of different shades from dark, dark blue to very pale blue. And that way it gives a little definition to the mountain ranges. And so right now I'm just in the process of this, but I think you can see the benefits already. I would have to check that. And so here are the color blockings for the branches and the patterns of leaves. And as you can see, I have started the thread painting on here. And everything is just to give dimension, color, and texture to the work.
You want to fix your detail camera?
Yes, would you fix that? Mark realized I was having problems. That is wonderful. Thank you. I tried to remember what we did and I couldn't remember. So now I can push this back. Oops, did I just do something? Properties. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Oh, yay, we have it back. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, here we go. Yay, yay, yay. I'm so tickled. So now let's go back to the detail camera, because this is I can show you better what I mean, and then give you the effect. And so I still have a little bit more thread painting here, and I'm going to want this to be less straight. So I'm liable to want to take out some of this and have it, because there are really no straight lines in nature. Everything is curved and round, and even trees are not perfectly straight at all. Next time, look at the base of a tree, you'll see what I mean. All right, so now you can see all the stitching to try to give this stuff more. And let me see if I can show you this on the original. I'm afraid to move this too much, so I'm going to be careful. I wish I could zoom in. But in here, you can just see multiple different colors, different textures. Look down in here. I wanted to show all... Whoops. Luckily, that was just the monitor that I turned off. I can turn that back on. But I wanted to show all the different textures. And you can see the light colored pieces that I put in now make more sense with the myriad of textures put in them. And it's like they all belong. They now belong to that group. So I'm hoping this will give you some ideas. I've just started on the textures up here. And you remember last week, after I blocked in the colors, I had to come with invisible thread, monopoly is my favorite, and do a zigzag. And each separate piece was zigzagged down, because you cannot count on fusible to hold for longer than it takes you to work on the quilt. So you definitely want to make sure everything gets tacked down and ready. So I'm really liking this more now that I have the extra colors. I've got to be careful. I'm doing too many lines. I'm seeing the lines now. So I will come back in with more colors and do more like circly or zigzaggy shapes. Be careful that you don't leave a whole lot of lines, okay? Because then you'll look like a little kid who's coloring it in. But I'm going to be getting there. I will be doing, when you're so busy putting each color, shade, tint in, you're up close, and when you look back, this is the first time I'm seeing it from a distance. That's when you notice some of this. So I don't have to tear these out. I just need to come in maybe with a different orange and just kind of break up some of the lines with a little more textural thread painting. So I'm hoping that that makes sense to you. And as you see, outlining the mountains, because it was just looking like an ever swirling blob. And we noticed that on the original artwork, they had what looked like leading in between, because it's supposed to look like stained glass. So I mimicked by just doing zigzag stitches with the different tints of thread to give definition to the mountains. So now I think it looks more like mountains. All right, and then, hi Cheryl Hogan, it is so good to see you. So I'm hoping this is starting to make sense. Now, once I finish, and understand, I'll take some stitches out, I'll put some stitches back in. Once I finish with the thread painting, I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to cover up the fabric too much. I just want to do accenting. Tell yourself that. You're accenting. The fabric was the beginning, was the bulk of the color was put on with fabric, and the bulk of, now see, I just very easily popped out some wayward stitches that looked too much like I was putting garland on those trees, and then I just want to take out a few more here. And so all you have to do is take out enough to stop your eye from seeing a straight line. So just take that out, and then I'll come along with my little scissors and trim it up. And now you don't have quite the look of garland on the tree. So let me pull this up, take a little bit of this. So just remember, when you're doing your thread painting, it's a good idea to avoid too many straight lines. So really kind of, when you're working, just kind of try to do little circles, little ovals, whatever you can, or just zigzagging it so it doesn't look too straight. And like I told you, I'll come back here with more oranges and put in, you won't notice this straight line if you put in some nice scrubbly circles. But I took the pen off here because now I have gotten rid of, let me get a little, and it's funny, sometimes you'll take some of it off and you'll say, well, I still see it, because once it's imprinted on your brain, you feel like you still see it. But that looks so much better now. And, all right, so I think I've shown you this. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be looking at the inspiration and doing some more with thread color, the striations in, look at all of this, because I really do like the way that looks, the striations in these mountains. And then I will change my thread color as I go up to reflect here the more teal look, and up here a more lavender look. So I will definitely work on that. But if you'll notice, this is where it looks like a satin stitch, but it's supposed to be the leading in between the colors. And you can see what looks like a texture in the leaves. So I'm giving that texture with my thread painting. So we're getting there. We are getting there. And I think that we're being pretty faithful to the original piece of artwork. Now, you don't have to ever be faithful to it. When I asked Reed from Winder Aspire, has an Etsy site, if I could use one of his pieces of art, he said, sure. And I said, actually, normally I see an inspiration piece and I make a bunch of changes. But you know what? His was so wonderful, I really didn't want to make a bunch of changes. So, but he gave his permission. The only thing he asked is that we give the name of his Etsy site, and that he would like to see a picture if any of you make it. So, you prefer the Tennessee mountains with all the trees. Ah, gotcha. Yeah, and this is supposed to be the good old Smoky Mountains. All right, so I'm going to come back. Let me type in, and it's Winder Aspire on Etsy. And this, it's a Smoky Mountain. Let me see. I'm going to put this up And then let me grab the shortcut, if you just give me a moment. I'm hoping this is the exact one we're using, but he would love to see photos of our work because he said he is really curious to see. Whoops, let me hold on. He is really curious to see how it translated to fabric. Like, sure. Okay, so now let me close this down. And here it's kind of a long. Currently have time to travel with the furlough. Oh no, no money coming in. Oh, that. You know what? That's just not right. I'm sorry about that. I'm so sorry. Okay. Enter. Come on. How? What is this doing? I think this was too long of a... let me just shorten this. Okay, I think I tried putting too many letters. Yep, it wouldn't let it go because it was too long of a shortcut. All right, so now that we're right here, let's go do show and tell. And I know people have been very busy, so we don't have a lot of show and tell, but I did get a couple new ones in. And so let's go see. All right. Now, you know, I could have gone to this. I forgot I could also show you this way. And while I'm here, I'm going to, let me bring this in so you can see what I meant about the texture. Oh, a show called The Reluctant Traveler. Oh my gosh, what channel is it on, Miss Mary? I love the Levies. Reluctant Traveler. Okay. Oh, that sounds fun. Okay. But anyway, I'm showing you here so that you can see the different textures. And what you're going to want to do is, how can I add those textures? It'd be wonderful if I had the exact fabric to do it. But otherwise, you get in there with your thread painting and you put the textures in. All right, so now let's go to show and tell. Alberta last week sent us her new, let me bring this bigger, her new table runner. I love the yellows and blues, lemons, lemons, lemons. Isn't that pretty? Very, very nice. Okay, and now let me bring that back down and see who is next. Now, I don't know. No, that wasn't what I want to show. Okay. Betty Meister. Miss Bonnie. Miss Bonnie. Well, you know she was making some pieces to a costume because she does the reenactments, the SCA. And when she was making a Viking hood for herself, she decided that her amazing little dragon needed one too. That is so cute. Okay. Now let's see. Then here is her Viking hood. Love it. And she made an apron dress for the reenactment. Here is her Viking hood. This is the most recent quilt she got done. Oh, thank thank you. Yes, Snail's Trail al fresco. And we did a class on that this summer. I taught everyone free. And Brenda, if you would like one, I have the paper piece pattern I drew up myself. You could send me an email to ourtime2quilt@gmail.com and I will send it back to you by email. But here is our Bonnie at her reenactment. So I'm so tickled that she has that. That's a lot of fun. All right. There are so many hobbies for anybody who wants to try, and they're just wonderful. Okay, let's see. I thought I did have something. Let me see something. Did I have October? Here it is. All right. So last week, I told you I went to my grandson's band performance. And then I went to see Hamilton at the movie theater. Boy, that was wonderful. This is my daughter's, her eucalyptus plant and her, oh gosh, what did she call it? It's like a sunflower vine. Doing really well, you see. Here's another photo of my grandson's high school band. This is, do you remember, everybody, our splash quilt that we made? We wanted to practice doing reverse applique. Well, here is the one I finished, and I was telling you how I found a really good stripe, rainbow stripe, to go around the edge of it. And my granddaughter's birthday was last week, so I gave this to her for her birthday. And she loves it. I'm so tickled. And it's a happy, I've just called it the splash quilt. And it's a very happy quilt. So I'm tickled. All right. Here are my grandsons that they're learning how to saw wood. And I just love that. You know, that's the fun of having kids, when you can teach them all the things that you know how to do. Isn't that cute? Oh, here we go. Here is the piece of MDF that I put under the Japanese food stall, the yatai. And here is what it looked like after I finished painting it and taking the tape off. Whose birthday is it? Oh, for my granddaughter. Thank you, Miss Marshall. You're so sweet. And then my grandsons had their school pictures made. Here's Russell, he's 6, and here's Donnie, he's 5. There's a couple more pictures. They're so cute. So here are their school pictures. And, oh, this was me doing sewing down, stitching down with the mono poly, stitching down each piece of fabric. So there we go. All right. I think that was it for me. Now let's go back to show and tell. And Debbie, oh, I love these. Debbie does such a great job. Oh, look at this quilt. Isn't that wonderful? And I love her loft sewing area. It's so pretty. So that is wonderful. And I love, in fact, you know what? I'm going to be doing shapes similar to that with my moon glow. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, thank you. They're dear boys. Okay. Then here is the stairwell for Miss Debbie, and every season she decorates that stairwell, and it's just lovely. Look at the quilts and the flower arrangement and all the fall and Halloween quilts. What fun. And look at this. I love that Halloween quilt. So thank you for sharing your current works, Miss Debbie. I love it. Now, Miss Hopi. Now, Miss Hopi is not here with us today because she and her husband went to their cabin, and their cabin doesn't have internet or cell phone service, so they rough it while they're there. She's working on her amazing mosaic quilt, and here is her beautiful version of the Snail's Trail al fresco. And she doesn't have, I know she doesn't have new pictures to show us, but she's been busy making totes because she's going to have a big art show sale. And so she's been very, very busy. Here is Miss Jo's attic windows. Wonderful. I love it. And then a wonderful tumbling block. And it reminds me, I have a Jenny Beyer kit with Francis. Hello, it's so good to see you. Oh, thank you. So, okay. Now, so that was Miss Jo So. And I'm going to show this one this week because these are Miss Linda's. I love her wonderful collage quilt, and she's got photos of deer, images of the cats, of flowers. This is just a happy quilt, and there's always something to look at. You could stay so busy. 1, 2, 3, 4 deer right there. So I love these quilts because each time you look at them, you see something new. Isn't that nice? Yeah, we have some cat lovers here. We do. All right. If you have any new photos, send them my way. We're excited. Here is Miss Mary's version of the Splash reversible applique. And I love the 2 little birds down bottom. And she put hers in a vase. I love it because Miss Mary has a distinctive artistic voice. Here is her Snail's Trail al fresco and her wonderful mosaic with the cute birdies at the bottom. Love that. All right, now let's see who is next. Let's see. Miss Melton has some new work going. One thing she wanted to share with her, this was her grandmother's weaving. Isn't that the cutest? Oh, there's Miss. Oh, there you are, Miss Hopi. And this is Melton's grandmother. This is a weaving. She used her feet to do weaving, and her grandmother made this years and years ago. I love that. And then Miss Melton has the Etsy store, and it was Swan Girl, I believe is the name of her Etsy store. And so these are her book covers that she makes and sells on her Etsy shop. And I love them. So just be on the lookout for her wonderful things. And even though she's in Turkey, you can have one of her beautiful artworks. So I love that. Thank you, Miss Melton, for sharing that with us. And then, especially the grandmothers, that wonderful weaving. And, Cheryl was so nice. Remember I was talking about wanting to try to figure out how in the world to use the soft silicone forms for my polymer clay because they're so soft. Well, Cheryl spoke right up and said, use liquid polymer. And I hadn't thought of that. That's so exciting. And my daughter's coming in 2 weeks, and she's going to bring me some alcohol inks that I can choose to go with them. I am so excited. But she took a class, and look, they use liquid polymer to make lace. I mean, it is really detailed and exquisite. So she was showing me from this class she took, look at this. This is a liquid polymer that was mixed with color, put on denim, then they use a heat gun to set it. And let me see. Here it is up close. Isn't that beautiful? So now that's given me a whole new idea of the different things that I can do with liquid polymer. And that is so exciting. So thank you so much. I tell you, I always say that I learn more from y'all than I could ever teach you. So thank you so much. And it happens time after time, and I love it. Thank you. All right. I think this is about it for this week. Now, that's the show and tell. Feel free to use my email to send your pictures of your garden or your artwork, whatever you would like to share with us. And let me, I do have something. I hadn't downloaded them yet, but hold on one second. And okay. Come on. Oh, my phone is being so slow. Let me try to go here. All right, well, I tell you what. Now is the portion of our program where I'm going to show you some hand sewing Jenny Beyer style. And so, and I want to show you something else too. So let me come back to the main camera. All right. Now, I wanted to tell y'all about something that might help you as much as it helps me. Let me put my eyes on. And I have terrible arthritis in my hands, and I'm a big believer in keeping your hands busy because you don't want them to freeze up. But I used to use scissors like this. Scissors where you put your hands in them to cut your fingers. Well, this is a painful thing for me now, and having certain joints that are greatly enlarged means sometimes I can't get my fingers into the holes. And it's just an unnecessary pain for me. And what I have done in the last 10 years is switch over to the Fiskars scissors because they have, number one, they have a spring on them. So instead of putting your fingers in little holes, see how it just has one big hole right here? And all you do is you exert pressure one way, the spring opens the scissors back up for you, which is so much better when you have problems with your hands. What I use all the time, these things are practically welded to my hands. These little Fiskars, the little mini, they're snips. These are wonderful. The only thing you have to be careful is those edges are very sharp. But these are the best. If it weren't for these, I would have to probably give up a lot of the things I do by hand. So I just wanted to tell you, as you get more and more arthritis, or you find it difficult to cut, look for smart tools. Things like, let me see if I have one still here in this drawer. The Martelli rotary cutter. It is ergonomically designed so that you can cut, and my back is bad, so I try not to stand up and cut. And this allows you to keep your hands straight, and I can sit and cut my fabrics all I want. So Martelli, and this is for left hand, but they also have them for the right hand too. So just be very smart with your tools as you age. Then if you do that, you can continue to do things you love. All right, so now I'm going to bring the close-up camera and let me show you what Miss Jenny Beyer taught me about hand sewing. All right, let me turn off this light here. And, okay, hopefully I've got this the right way, but we will find out. And feel free during this time to ask questions. Oh, you got a hummingbird art quilt from Melton. That is wonderful. Oh, nice, nice, nice. All right, let me first thread my needle. It'd be nice to be so organized that this would already be done. I saw the coolest thing the other day. Someone was busy doing hand quilting or hand sewing. They had their spool of thread, and on the spool of thread were about 15 hand needles already on the thread. Okay, so what I mean is their thread was spooled like this, and right here they had 10 or 15 needles already on the thread. The reason for that, you pulled a muscle in your glutens. Oh, honey, I am so sorry. Don't you hate that part about getting old, is you're always hurting something, it seems? I know exactly what you mean. I end up with bruises and things and say, what did I do? How did I do that? I'm so sorry. I hope you'll feel better very soon. Let me see if I can find my daughter's photos. Okay. All right. I thought I would just show you. Oops, this is upside down. So let me carefully, I don't want it to freeze. Let me carefully spin it around. This is my grandson's girlfriend. They were over at my daughter Becky's house. And there is my granddaughter Charlie, whose birthday was last week. And then here is Evan's quilt, Evan's pumpkin. Let me go back and find that again. Okay, let me see. Oh, pooh. Where did that go? Okay, and I showed you, there's my grandson with his pumpkin. Let me go back. Okay, and here, oh, Deb. Here they're all around making caramel-covered apples. And I love this. And there's Andy and his mom. And they're all working on their candied apples. And then here they all are with their pumpkins, carved pumpkins. Isn't that sweet? I love that. That is awesome. All right, so that's all I had extra to show you. So now let's talk about hand sewing. Even if you think right now that you don't like hand sewing, I used to say that. And I always get myself in trouble. Okay, because I say I'm never going to do that, and then I turn around and do it. All right, so this is the block that I want to make to finish this quilt out. So I'm going to come in here and get my fabrics. Now, I want to show you, let me see. Here is this part, and here is this. Okay. I want to show you, it's really important to look when you do hand sewing that you want to check where you stop the sewing, where you start the sewing, where you stop. And what you'll notice, even though there's a point in this piece, the stitching actually stops back here because you have 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And so really, this, you don't usually stitch down there. Now, this piece here, this piece goes up here on this, and then you tuck it down like this. Now, I'm going to show you how do you find where you start, how do you find where you end. Now, one of the things that, let me see if the tool is in here. Here we go. Okay, and then let me grab my little piece of... Jenny Beyer is very exacting. She really, really wants her work to be as perfect as possible, and that's how she's won so many awards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this tiny little hole punch, and I'm going to punch a hole right at that edge right here. All right, there's now a little hole. Then I'm going to go back down and a hole, because I don't know if you can tell, but this is a line, then it kind of curves to go down. So I'm going to come punch a hole right here. All right, so now you will take your fabric right side up. You place this template on that fabric. Get your piece of tailor's chalk, some kind of chalk, and you're going to rub over that hole. And the same for this one. Rub that chalk over the hole. Now this puncher is so tiny, it's sometimes hard to get the chalk to go down in that tiny hole. But then take away the pattern piece, and do you see what you have now? You have 2 dots. Now, this one, whoops, no, this one goes on this piece. So what I'm going to do now for this one, when you have done enough sewing, you probably don't need to do this, because you can eyeball that 1/4 of an inch. But now I'm going to take and put a hole right here at this point, and put a hole back here at this point where the sewing stops. Come on. Alright, so here's the starting and the stopping sewing lines. So now I'm going to take and line this up and do the same thing. Take that tailor's chalk and rub it in that hole. Make sure it gets all the way down. Okay, now take this off. Now you have, whoa, this one's harder to see. Now you have your starting and stopping points on this. Okay. Actually, I needed to do it on the opposite side. I didn't check that. Okay. Alright, there's that. So let me make the hole right down here. Okay, make that spot. Alright, so now I have a dot here and a dot there. So what I'm going to do is get a pin, put it in this dot, put it right through that dot, and then right through this dot, like that. And as long as the pin is pretty parallel to that, then I put my fingers down tightly on the fabric to hold them together, then come in here and pin that. Then I'm going to get another pin, And I'm going to come match up these 2 dots down here. Match these up. And then I'm going to put a pin in down here. So I've got these 2 dots matched. I've got these 2 dots matched. Now, and like I say, you get pretty used to eventually. A lot of times I'll take and just put my needle through and I can tell right where. Now I'm going to start 1 stitch in front of that dot just because I know it's not going to hurt anything. But sometimes you have to start right on the dot and end on the dot. Alright, so I've got a knot on my thread. I find that every time you snip the thread when you're done sewing a seam, then go ahead and re-knot it so it is ready to go when you're ready to go. The worst thing is to have all of it in your hand and then not have a knot on that needle, on that thread. So now I've made 1 stitch. What I'm going to do is do a locking stitch by going halfway back between that stitch, halfway back, then come forward. And make the stitches as small as you are comfortable making. And if you'll notice, I hold my needle in my hand and I kind of load the fabric onto the tip of the needle. Do you see how I'm doing? This is so much easier, just rocking the fabric on and off the needle. Okay? I'm going to move this out of the way just so it doesn't bother you when you're looking. But I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches on the needle. And then I pull it through like this. Pull it all the way through. Now, she taught us to have about 18 inches of thread on your needle. I understand, I hate making a new threaded needle, so I put a lot more. The reason she's right about 18 inches of thread is your thread can end up getting pretty worn. Okay, so I made my first stitch, went halfway back from my next stitch, then stacked up the stitches, and when I feel like that needle's pretty full, then I quit. Now, if you're new to sewing, you can always come in and you can draw a stitching line on the fabric if you're unsure of where your 1/4 inch is. I have been doing hand stitching for 30 years, so I'm really good with a 1/4 inch. But you know what you can do? Now, see, I'm going back. Every time you stop and start, you go back a half stitch, and that locks it. That way, if something were to happen and the thread would get cut, it wouldn't totally unravel. But one thing you can do if you're unsure of your stitch is just put it up against something you've already measured. And that way you can say, yep, you're still on a 1/4 inch. But you're always welcome to take some kind of marking device and draw a 1/4 inch line. When I first started stitching, I was all over the place. And, you know, it got fat and skinny and fat and skinny. So I'm getting ready to start sewing again. So I'm going to go back a half a stitch. And then here I go. So it's actually, and I'm going to hurry up and get down to the end so that I can knot off and show you how I do that. I'm going to pull this pin. The pins get on my nerves after a while. You need them at first because you don't want your fabric to squish apart. But Jenny Beyer one time was doing a show with Alex Anderson, and she said, I can sew by hand as fast as you can sew with the machine. So Alex challenged her, and she was pretty amazing. I don't sew as fast as Jenny because, I don't know, I just don't. But I find that by being able to work in the evening, I can get so much more done if I'm willing to sew by hand, so I have a break from sitting at a sewing machine. So, and if you keep your stitches small and even, then you're good. Now, I hope I was under the camera when I was doing all of that. I apologize if I wasn't. Now I'm back down at that last dot. I can take that last stitch right there. And then what I do is I come back in and go back a half stitch. Okay? Then I pull it until the loop is small, then I go through the loop. Okay? So that gives it the beginning of a knot. Then I take it with my hand and I wrap the thread around and come under that loop and secure that, holding it down right at the base of the fabric. Then I'm going to make another one. Sometimes I'll make 2, sometimes I'll make 3 knots to make sure that's very secure. Then I will come, nip it off, and before I do anything else, a woman taught me this a long time ago, and it was one of the best single tips I ever got. So to make a knot, I wrap the thread around the needle about 4 times and then slowly, carefully pull the thread, sliding the needle down to the bottom, and there it is. Okay, so now once this is sewn, I will take my finger and my fingernail and I will finger press this in place. So there it is, and it's pretty well lined up here, and it's pretty well lined up here. And that gives me this piece right here. Then I do the same thing to this next one with this color, with this fabric. So I put it right sides together, I stitch that, then I put these two together, and then sew it as a Y seam. Now, I don't know if you've heard of Y seams, but this is a Y seam. And so what you do is you start stitching here. You stitch to here and stop. Now, if you want to, you can knot off there or just do an extra stitch to kind of lock it into place. Okay, and this should be loose. Looks like I sewed a little touch farther than I should have, so I'm just going to click off that last stitch. There we go. All right, so you're going to start sewing here, sew up to here, then do an extra stitch to kind of lock it in place. Then turn around and get this next side, because see, you're going to have a piece that's like this and a piece that this is going to be one piece put together. Okay, this is going to be one square. Okay, so you stitch up this way, you do a locking stitch up in here, right? You got to meet that edge right there. Then, and you don't stitch down on this green yet. You just stay on the blue. Put a locking stitch. Then, if you have any pins here, take them out. Now line up this half of this square. Because see, this will be sewn together. So line up this half of the square with this line. These will be sewn together too. And you line up this end of the fabric with this fabric, and you go back down, stitch back down this side. So if you've ever had a problem with Y seams, try them by hand. I think you'll be really pleased. And look at this. If you're careful, oh, this is where I started. I sewed up here, did a locking stitch, then took my pins out and realigned from here to this down this side. And it can be that simple to do a Y seam. All right? Aw, Marcia, you're the sweetest thing. Okay, so that's how I'm doing that. And then I will end up, probably by hand tonight, sewing this little border on all of the blocks. And so that will be easy. Then I'll put my cornerstones and away I go. And you can see where the thing that Jenny Beyer excelled at was her portrayal of light. And I call her the quilter of light because, I mean, her quilts positively glow. Isn't that amazing? So, she knows how to do this. All right. Well, now, woo! Okay, I'm going to come back to the main camera. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have enjoyed yourself and maybe learned a little something along the way. And I appreciate you spending this time with me. And next week, I'll have more of these. I hope to have a Grinch pillow done, or just about done for you. And I'll keep going on the moon glow, and I'll finish my thread painting of the fall landscape, the Smoky Mountains. I will finish the thread painting on this, and then we'll start the final phase, or next to final, depending on how you want to count it, where I'll be using ink tints. I'll be using fabric dye pencils and fabric paints to do some subtle shading and highlighting, which is the final part of bringing this quilt to life. Then after that, it's a matter of quilting it with some batting and backing. And then I will show you how I treat it as if it is a work of art. And so I will then put a small border of probably a light tan that looks like mat board, and then how I use fabric to put a frame on that. So that is what we're doing today. So have a great fall. I hope that you will get some beautiful colors of leaves where you are. I hope the temperatures are good for you. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. And take good care of yourself. I can't wait to see you next week. All right, take good care. Do something just for you. I'm going to go see Downton Abbey this week. So do something just for you, everyone. And you are the best. Bye-bye.